Welcome to this explainer. If you're gearing up for a ServiceNow Strategic Portfolio Management or SPM Business Analyst interview, you already know there is an absolute mountain of information out there to sift through. So today, we're going to take that dense interview guide and transform it into a battle-tested strategy to help you absolutely crush your next interview. Let's dive in.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, the BA implementation lifecycle. Second, mastering demand management. Third, the demand-to-project handoff. Fourth, project portfolio management. And finally, acing your BA interview.
All right, Section 1, the BA implementation lifecycle.
There are 6 very distinct phases to this lifecycle. We kick off with initiation and discovery, roll right through design and build, hit user acceptance testing, or UAT, and finally land at go live. As a BA, you're right there in the trenches from those very early stakeholder interviews and scope definition all the way through to hypercare triage and the final platform handoff.
Now, this is a crucial point to remember. A BA isn't just a passive scribe hiding in the back of the room taking notes. No way. Your value touches literally every single phase. You're mapping as-is processes and owning the requirements traceability matrix early on. And then, you're translating those business needs into user stories, authoring UAT scripts, and facilitating PMO testing sessions. You are the glue holding it all together.
Moving right along, Section 2, mastering demand management. Think of demand management as the absolute front door to your portfolio. It's your single intake channel, your scoring engine, and your governance gate to ensure only the right work gets approved and funded. Because honestly, without this front door in place, it's pure chaos. Project ideas just flood in through random emails, frantic Slack messages, and those casual hallway conversations that completely derail your day.
Seriously, ask yourself, what actually happens when you let the loudest request win? Well, if you don't have a strong governance gate, those loud voices just drain your critical organizational resources. It's a nightmare. That's exactly why you've got to collaborate with stakeholders to keep intake forms lean and structured. Remember, every single unnecessary field you add to a form is just another excuse for someone to bypass the whole process.
So when you're configuring the scoring and prioritization model, you'll see typical weights, something like 40% for strategic alignment, 30% for financial ROI, 20% for risk, and maybe 10% for resource availability. But here is the real secret sauce. Getting leadership buy-in on these exact weights before you even touch the configuration is where the organizational politics live. You've got to run those upfront workshops to lock in that alignment. When you effectively navigate those politics and map out clean, multi-stage approval chains, you get to strip out all those redundant IT and finance steps. And the results? They are incredible. We're talking about a strong BA taking a massive demand to approval cycle time of 6 entire weeks and slashing it down to just 9 days. 9 days. Now that is the kind of massive operational win you want to talk about. Let's transition to Section 3, the demand to project handoff. This is the crucial bridge. During the field mapping process, you've got the demand name mapping straight to the project name, which the PMO owns. The estimated cost maps directly to the planned budget, which is firmly owned by finance. And your requested resource type, that maps to initial resource allocation, owned by IT. Now, this field mapping is deceptively simple once you're in the tool, but as the BA, you have to carefully facilitate this handoff so absolutely zero context gets lost when an approved demand auto-generates a brand new project record.
Expanding on that, the biggest takeaway here isn't just the technical mapping, it's managing the political complexity behind the data. You literally have to ensure the PMO, finance, and IT are all 100% satisfied with who owns the timeline, who owns the cost, and who owns the resource data before you ever start building anything.
Up next, Section 4, Project Portfolio Management.
Once that project is successfully created, welcome to the Executive Command Center Project Portfolio Management, or PPM. This is where leadership stops tracking isolated projects and starts making real portfolio-level decisions. You're giving them a real-time pulse on health, budget, schedule, and resources. You'll be defining standard phases, spinning up project workspace templates, and setting up financial tracking to map OpEx and CapEx. And vitally, you define the reporting cadence and the exact fields that drive that critical red, amber, green, or RAG health score. And here is a huge pro tip for when you're gathering those reporting requirements. Steer your executives far away from those endless raw data tables. Push hard for performance analytics dashboards that offer indicator-based views. Executives just make fundamentally better decisions when they can actually see patterns and trends, instead of mindlessly sifting through massive spreadsheets.
A perfect example of this is resource capacity integration. By setting up 90-day demand versus capacity heat maps, you are essentially giving resource managers a crystal ball. They get critical forward visibility to see exactly which teams are overloaded way before a project is inevitably delayed. Just like that, you turn a simple dashboard into an absolutely essential weekly governance tool.
And finally, Section 5, acing your BA interview.
Let's talk strategy. When they ask about your overall value add, you want to look them in the eye and deliver this quote with total confidence. My job isn't just to document requirements, it's to challenge the process before it gets configured. In demand management, if the scoring model doesn't have leadership buy-in, it becomes shelfware. Dropping that line proves you are just an order taker, you're a strategic consultant driving real behavioral change. And when the inevitable scope creep question comes up, hit them with this. SPM has a wide footprint. When a stakeholder asks for new fields mid-sprint, I evaluate the impact on the data model and approval workflows before agreeing, not after. Use that specific pitch to show them exactly how you enforce formal change control when the pressure is on during the build phase. For questions about platform integrations, this is your gold mine. Tell them, the most critical integration I design is the demand project promotion. Finance owns the cost fields, IT owns the resource fields, and the PMO owns the timeline. My job is to facilitate the field mapping conversation so all three are satisfied before we build. That instantly signals you completely understand the cross-departmental politics needed for a flawless handoff. Lastly, on measuring success, drop this. I define success metrics before go live, not after. For PPM, it's portfolio health visibility. Can the governance committee make a go/no-go decision using only the dashboard, without asking for a separate report? Boom. Pitching that proves you always tie your technical configuration straight back to highly measurable business outcomes. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. How will you use these strategies to transform from just a simple requirement taker into a highly trusted strategic advisor in your next interview? You've got the frameworks right here. Now step into that room and confidently prove your value. You've totally got this.